89.7 WTMD. It's radio for music people. Live in studio, stripped down acoustic. It is Matthew Sweet and Paul Chastain. Thank you, guys. That sounded absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Can I ask how the songs from Sunshine Lies are fleshing out on stage? And Paul, I certainly want to hear what you're thinking about that too.
Well, we have 3 guitar lineup, so they're a little different than the record, but I think pretty full and pretty textured. Everything's kind of more rocked out a little bit, I think.
I've had the pleasure of seeing you a couple of times. It's one of the pleasure experiences. Is absolutely, you have a wonderful way of bringing harmony, melody, and rock and roll. Just rock and roll together.
Well,
I love that.
And I'll add to what Paul said. We are actually doing a lot of new songs for a new record.
Yeah.
Usually, you try a few, and it's hard for them to measure up to older stuff and to feel like you're not going to be really boring people. But on this tour, we're doing quite a few of them. We were doing 6 or 7. I think now we're probably doing more like 5.
5.
People have been really responding great to them, and I think partly it's because on this record we did capture a little bit of that, a little more live feel and kind of a little more craziness than usual, because I think I'm just learning better how to bottle that feeling a little more in a recording. So maybe that's partly why they work a little better live, but people really, really seem into them, so that's good.
Well, that is incredibly cool stuff. Matthew Sweet playing at the 8x10 tonight, by the way. Matthew, I've got to say that unabashedly, I am a huge fan of your music. I just love it.
I'm so flattered. Thank you.
Girlfriend was one of those records that brought me back to listening to rock and roll. Song by song by song. I know that record by heart. It's one of those things that I just listen to endlessly. And it just was a really, really great piece of straight-ahead rock and roll in a time when, whenever it was still kind of the leftovers of hair metal was going on and stuff like that.
Stuff.
And it was just so nice to hear straight-ahead rock and roll. It had a good sense of melody and harmony, as well as some real, guts to it. I wanted to ask you, influences on your guitar playing and on your writing, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit.
Well, really earlier on, when I was a teenager, I listened to sort of new wave, punk, invasion, kind of a lot of British stuff. People like Nick Lowe and Elvis Costello are huge heroes of mine. Neil Young, is a huge idol of mine. He wasn't really as much when I started writing songs, but right before Girlfriend, in fact, I was making demos for that. I started playing live drums on my demos, which were really bad, but it made my manager at the time, still my manager, Russell Carter, he said, "Oh man, it's like Neil Young and Crazy Horse." And I was like, "Yeah, I know I have a little thin voice, like Neil Young." I didn't realize he was just a great, I just had never really heard a lot of the stuff. And so he sent me a tape of Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere and stuff, and I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. It's totally free, and it's awesome. So that became a pointer for me, and I think especially probably influenced, since I'd written a lot of Girlfriend already, it probably more influenced how I played live once I went out and started really playing live a lot for Girlfriend, and I'm sure stuff after that. But the Beatles, John Lennon, huge favorite, Brian Wilson, I'm just a gigantic fan of, and he was another person who, I was a fan of Beach Boys records and stuff when I was a teenager, but when I moved to Athens, Georgia, when I got out of high school, it was actually Peter Buck from REM turned me on to Pet Sounds, the Beach Boys record that's really the classic great one. And even though I got really into that, I still hadn't exactly latched on to Brian as the guy, that it was only him, because I just bought the record and played it. You have to remember, we had no internet. There was no way to find out about stuff unless you happened to have that conversation with someone who knew. Later on, when I got my first record contract in 1985, I went up to New York to have this meeting with the guys at Columbia Records, the guy who signed me, Steve Rolbowski, and this fellow, Rick Chertoff, who was having huge success with the Cyndi Lauper record at that time. And I thought they wanted me to give songs to Cyndi Lauper or something, it just wasn't even conceivable I could get a record deal. So I went up to meet with them, and they're sitting there, and Steve's like, "We really like the Brian Wilson quality of your music." And I went, "Who's Brian Wilson?" And they're
Nicely
like,
done.
"You don't know who Brian Wilson is? The Beach Boys?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I love Pet Sounds and that stuff," because I was kind of getting into it. But then Steve sent me Smiley Smile, and then I really learned, all about that stuff. So really, I was in progress of learning about the classic rock more while I was kind of doing Girlfriend and Alter Beast.
Can we get another song from you guys?
Sure.
What's the next tune you want to do?
Room to Rock.
It's Matthew Sweet on WTMD.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4.
'89.7 WTMD. It's Radio for Music People. Matthew Sweet and Paul Chastain in studio with us prior to Matthew's show tonight at the 8x10, and that is Room to Rock, stripped down acoustic from the new disc Sunshine Lies. Matthew, I wanted to ask you, have you read any good books lately, or any kind of movies that have kind of influenced you or sparked your imagination in like any way?
Let me think. Sparked my imagination.
Yeah.
Was Pineapple Express. That movie made me laugh so much. That guy James Franco's so funny in it. I got a new book about Graham Parsons, but I haven't started reading it yet. He is also a huge favorite of mine I didn't mention, who really did influence me songwriting-wise a lot. I didn't ever get to fall in too much with all the tributes to Graham Parsons. I'm just drawing such a blank today. Tony Marsico's Late Nights with Bob Dylan. Our bass player put out this self-published book about his time. He was in a band called the Crusados way back, and Dylan hired them for 6 months in the late 80s or something to be his band. So it's all about going to Dylan's house and playing, and they played a Letterman, was it? A Letterman show. So that's been bouncing around the bus as well.
So what do you have planned over the next few months? What's coming up?
We're going to try to keep touring, first of all, with my thing, and keep supporting Sunshine Lies, and we may even be doing some shows in the next summer for it. In the meantime, we're under the gun to finish a 70s version of the Susanna Hoffs and I thing, and we've gone just crazy recording for it, 40 songs or something, maybe more. And it's going to probably be about a 21 song record. And we're trying to get that out in April or May. And everybody's trying to, they're so worried we won't finish. They're like, well, why don't you pick the songs for it now? And I'm like, no way, we're finishing everything. So it's really a double album, kind of.
Matthew, Paul, thank you both very, very much for coming in today.
Thanks so much for having us. And anyone who can come out tonight, please come.
Come early.
It's so fun at the live shows this tour.
Should come early and see the Bridges, who are
awesome, too.
Yeah, they're great.
They sing with us, too.
Matthew Sweet playing at the 8x10 tonight. Again, gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.